Tiambe. Thank you for watching QTV News. We take a look at stories making headlines in our news. The number of the country's COVID-19 cases has increased to 36 following one new case recorded in the last 24 hours. Energy Minister Matthew Nkua says the Copperbelt Energy Corporation has refused to sign a short-term power supply agreement with ZESCO, insisting on a long-term one. And police in Lusaka have arrested Pensions and Insurance Authority PIA Registrar and Chief Executive Officer Christopher Mapani for abuse of authority of office. And now the news in detail. The country has in the last 24 hours recorded one new case of coronavirus, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 36. Health Minister Chitalu Chirufya says the new case is of a male adult who traveled from Pakistan and transited through Dubai and Johannesburg before reaching Lusaka. Dr. Chirufya told a media briefing in Lusaka that the male adult is in isolation and the condition is stable. He says surveillance teams continue to track all contacts and take them for testing, adding that there are currently about 60 tests being run whose outcome will be announced. And Dr. Chirufya says Courtyard Hotel in Lusaka has been declared as an isolation center for COVID-19 cases through the evacuation of statutory powers. He adds that another 200 bed space facility in Makeni has also been turned into a hospital, and that Old Victoria Hospital in Lusaka's Long Acres will also accommodate some cases of COVID-19.
The idea is that we detect all positives and isolate them. To this effect, government has identified more facilities that will be transformed or translated into hospitals. Therefore, invoking powers in the statutory instrument 21, 22 and the Public Health Act, the Courtyard Hotel is now proclaimed to be a hospital for isolation. The Courtyard Hotel will be a hospital for isolation where we will put stable patients who are positive but do not require immediate clinical care, intensive clinical care management. They will be under our staff, and the place will be managed, will be guarded to ensure no entry and no exit, and there will be trained staff who will look after those positive patients, but we will restrict the use of Levi Mwanawasa to those who require intensive management by our clinicians. We are also declaring another facility within Makeni, which has a 200 bed capacity, into a hospital, and this will also be able to accommodate any further cases. The Victoria Hospital in Long Acres area is also going to accommodate new cases. We continue to explore our partnership with various corporates.
Energy Minister Matthew Nkua has revealed that the Copperbelt Energy Corporation CEC has refused to sign a bulk power supply agreement with ZESCO for a period of 12 months proposed by government and ZESCO. Mr. Nkua says the current agreement between ZESCO and CEC expires at midnight 31st March 2020. Speaking at a media briefing in Lusaka, Mr. Nkua said CEC has indicated that they prefer an agreement with 16-year tenure straight away with commercial terms that may not be favorable to ZESCO, government and the public in the long run. He says a combined team from IDC, ZESCO and relevant government departments have been sitting with CEC to negotiate a new short-term agreement to facilitate continuity of power supplies, as a longer-term agreement is being discussed, but to no avail. The Energy Minister says government will not allow any threat to the continuity of reliable power supply on the Copperbelt. Mr. Nkua states that ZESCO will in the meantime continue providing continuous and uninterrupted power supply to CEC for Copperbelt-based customers under conditions as proposed by ZESCO on an interim basis until further notice.
This is a most unfortunate situation, as government would have hoped that all parties see the need to arrive at a workable short-term solution as the parties endeavor to work out a long-term sustainable relationship. In addition, as we may be aware, the course of service study is currently underway the auspices of energy, under the auspices of the Energy Regulation Board, and the final report is expected sometime in November 2020. This cost of service study will have far-fetching consequences to the entire electricity supply industry with regard to matters of pricing and sustainability. ZESCO cannot therefore commit to long-term supply agreement which may later result in difficulty in implementing the recommendations of the study. Needless to say that this has ramifications not only to electricity industry players such as ZESCO and CEC, but also all customers, including the mines situated in the Copper Belt. Despite the challenges in reaching the agreement between the two parties, as I have already outlined, government would like to assure the public and all customers who are currently supplied through the CEC infrastructure on the Copper Belt as follows. 1. Bulk supply agreement expires tonight, the 31st of March at midnight. 2. Government recognizes the strategic contribution of the mining sector on the Copper Belt to the health of the Zambian economy, as well as the need to provide sustainable social, economic, environment for domestic customers and the public on the Copper Belt.
Police in Lusaka have arrested the Registrar of the Pensions and Insurance Authority PIA, Christopher Mapani, together with 2 other officers on 2 counts of abuse of authority of office. Others arrested are PIA Deputy Registrar Insurance Titus Nkwale and Manager Compliance and Insurance Nicholas Mbuya. Police spokesperson Esther Katongo says it is alleged that the trio, whilst acting together, jointly abused their authority of office by approving the appointment of Tobias Milambo as Chief Executive Officer of Ultimate Insurance Company Limited, contrary to Section 26, 3, 4C and 5 of the Insurance Act number 27 of 1997 of the laws of Zambia. Mrs. Katongo adds that in count 2, the trio are alleged to have jointly and whilst acting together abused their authority of office and issued a 2020 insurance general license to Ultimate Insurance Company Limited, contrary to Section 11, Cap 2A and Section 41 of Insurance Act number 27 of 1997, as read together with the provisions of Insurance Regulations 2015.
It is alleged that the trio jointly and whilst acting together abused their authority of office by approving the appointment of Tobias Milambo as Chief Executive Officer of Ultimate Insurance Company Limited, contrary to Section 26, 3, 4C and 5 of the Insurance Act number 27 of 1997 of the laws of Zambia. In count 2, the trio is alleged to have jointly and whilst acting together abused their authority of office and issued a 2020 insurance general license to Ultimate Insurance Company Limited, contrary to Section 11, subsection 2A and Section 41 of the Insurance Act number 27 of 1997, as read together with the provisions of Insurance Regulations 2015. This occurred between the year 2018 and 2020 in Lusaka.
Civil Society Constitution Agenda CISCA Board Chairperson Bishop John Mambo has called on the Electoral Commission of Zambia to postpone the Nangula Ward by-election of Luena constituency in Lumulanga district in view of the outbreak of coronavirus. Bishop Mambo says the commission should not risk the lives of people during this particular dire situation. He has told QTV News that even though it is constitutional to conduct by-elections, the commission should use common sense and cancel the by-elections. Bishop Mambo states that what the country needs is a total lockdown so that people can remain at home and monitor the situation. Bishop Mambo has appealed to President Lungu to direct the commission to cancel the by-elections and save lives.
This is not time to move from one office to the other and all that. Of course, the church, especially we evangelicals, anything that comes before us, we take it that it is, the devil and all that. But see, this is happening worldwide, and all we need to do really is to stay away. So for the by-election that is coming, it is not a matter of directing Chairman Judge Chulu to cancel that the election. They'll still get their salaries and so forth. But when you lose life, Something happened to any of those commissioners, they will get the best treatment. But something happened to a villager in Uluena, he or she will lose life. Is it what we are trying to do? Are we trying to reduce the 17 million Zambians? The answer is no. As far as I'm concerned, just like as you see me dressed, I'm going in the rural part to go and tell my people and others to say, this thing is real. You can't afford to just like people have talked of HIV and AIDS and said, up to this day, there is no cure. All they can do is to prolong your life. And you cannot, be so foolish and say, well, now stop drinking my medicine and all that. You'll end up dying. So is sugar, so is, diabetes and so forth. Most of us are in our last hour, advanced age. We cannot afford to do that. The most people that avoid.
Minister of Transport and Communications Permanent Secretary Meshek Lungu has dismissed rumors suggesting that government intends to ban intercity buses from moving beginning next week Friday. Mr. Lungu says the ministry is not aware of such a decision being made. He says any such decision will depend on the barometer that the Ministry of Health will give the Ministry of Transport. Mr. Lungu says the Ministry of Health are the ones on the focal point to decide what should be done in the face of the COVID-19.
It will depend on the barometer that the Ministry of Health will give us. Because they are the people that are in the focal point to decide what we should do.
Police in Central Province have launched a manhunt for 2 people who have been selling dog meat disguised as game meat to unsuspecting members of the general public. Central Province Police Commissioner Chola Katanga says police received a report of a stolen dog by Bernadette Kangwa, 46, of house number E217, Kawama Extension in Kawe District. Speaking in an interview with Zanis in Kawe, Mr. Katanga says that Ms. Kangwa, who is a secretary at the Provincial Education Office, alleged that her dog, valued at 500 kwacha, was stolen and killed by people only identified as Chakumbamba and Moses. He says when people got wind that the meat they have been buying was not game meat, they went to check where the duo stayed and discovered remains of dogs in a Sockaway. Mr. Katanga says police officers visited the scene where they found a pot of cooked meat suspected to be dog meat, and that one dog's head that was fished from the Sockaway was identified by the owner. He adds that the suspects of Kawama Extension residential area in Kawe are currently on the run. The Central Province Police Chief says a veterinary doctor will be brought on board to help examine the meat to ascertain its type. He states that 3 people have so far come forward to report that they bought and ate the suspected dog meat from the suspects purported to be Lechwe. Selling dog meat to unsuspecting members of the public is a criminal offense and punishable under Regulation 10 of the Food and Safety Act of 2019. Action Aid Zambia Country Director Nalucha Ziva says the continued increase in the price of mealie meal will negatively affect poor families who are already grappling with the high cost of living. Mrs. Ziva has attributed the high cost of mealie meal to poor implementation of agriculture policies. She has cited the implementation of the e-voucher under the Farmer Input Support Program, which she says has not yielded its intended purpose, looking at the manner it has been managed year in, year out. Mrs. Ziva notes that the country has witnessed a number of hiccups in the implementation of the e-voucher, resulting in farmers not receiving inputs on time, thereby affecting the agriculture sector. Meanwhile, Mrs. Ziva has called on government to do a thorough stock to ascertain the maize stock the country has before starting exports of maize.
It's quite unfortunate that we're experiencing shortages of the staple food mealie meal, and also the pricing at which the commodity has increased. This in itself has imposed serious strains on an average Zambian family. We saw the Jesse Terra food basket now is, for a family of 5, is standing around 7,000. So what that means is that the disposable income for average Zambians is not increasing, and yet the cost of living is increasing. And with change, but also our own policies around the implementation around the agricultural policies, it has not been very well done. If you look at the e-voucher, it had a lot of hiccups in its implementation, where some of the farmers were not able to get their inputs on time, and this in itself has affected the farming coming off a drought in certain parts of the country. That has also largely affected the maize stocks as a country. So we have moved away from being a bumper harvest to having enough. Also, when you look at the import and export bans on maize which have been done, I think there is need to do a thorough stop in terms of what the country has before we start looking at exportation of the maize commodity. That itself has an effect in terms of the pricing of the commodity in the local market.
The Zambia Medicines Regulatory Authority ZAMRA has noted with concern reports suggesting that people are practicing self-medication with certain prescription drugs such as chloroquine as a preventative measure against contracting the coronavirus. ZAMRA Senior Public Relations Officer Christabel Iliamopo has since warned all pharmaceutical outlets and any healthcare professionals selling or dispensing chloroquine as a preventative measure or treatment for COVID-19 to desist from doing so or risk being prosecuted. Mrs. Iliampo has cautioned the public against practicing self-prescription. She says unguided use of medicines can result in severe adverse effects, development of abdominal resistance, or even death. She says members of the general public should always consult and procure medication under the guidance of an authorized practitioner from licensed facilities. Mrs. Liampo adds that the best preventative measure against COVID-19 are those practices that target infection prevention and control. The Law Association of Zambia LAS has met with the judiciary led by Chief Justice Irene Mambilima on the ban imposed on constitutional lawyer John Sangwa from appearing before any Zambian court. LAS President Eddie Mwitwa says the association met the Chief Justice on Wednesday last week, where the issue of Mr. Sangwa and the need for the bar and the bench to continue interacting were discussed. Mr. Mwitwa has told Q News that the meeting was attended by, among others, the Deputy Chief Justice, judges of Constitutional and the Supreme Court, the Attorney General, and Mr. Sangwa. He says the meeting was fruitful, adding that LAS will continue with its engagement with the judiciary. Mr. Mwitwa, however, states that Mr. Sangwa's matter is still pending before the Legal Practitioners Committee following a complaint of professional misconduct by the judiciary.
It was a fruitful meeting. We had not only the Chief Justice, but the Deputy Chief Justice and other judges of the Constitutional Court, the Supreme Court, as well as members of the Council of LAS and State Council, including the Attorney General. That is how I think important the issue is to both the judiciary and the legal profession. Yeah, so I mean, beyond discussing Mr. Sangwa's issue, I think we were also able to delve into other areas or issues of common interest. But as things stand, I mean, the matter is still pending before the Legal Practitioners Committee, where the judiciary had reported the issue. But we are still engaging on other aspects of the case.
The National Association for Small and Medium-Scale Contractors has commended government for releasing 140 million kwacha to clear areas owed to local contractors. Association Secretary General Danny Sumumba says the release of the money is timely, as it will help the contractors address some of the challenges they are currently facing, as well as pay off the people they hired to help them undertake the projects. Mr. Sumumba says while the money might not be enough, it will go a long way in helping local contractors, especially during this period when the country and the globe is grappling with the coronavirus pandemic, which has resulted in a drop in economic activities and the general flow of money. He has, however, reiterated that the call on government to pay contractors promptly so that they can reinvest in other areas.
The National Association for Medium and Small-Scale Contractors has received the news of the release of 140 million kwacha towards the payment of local contractors' arrears with excitement. This was announced by the Minister of Finance last week. We really appreciate the decision by government to remember contractors at this critical moment, more especially that the country is facing a serious pandemic in COVID-19. We believe as an association that the 140 million kwacha released to pay contractors in the road sector will go a long way in alleviating some of the problems which the contractors face in the industry, and help to clear some of the outstanding wages to to the workers. I think this is the right move, even if the amount is little, but it's something that can be appreciated and sustain the contractors' business and enhance their cash flow at this critical moment. I think we thank government and we urge them to pay contractors promptly, as quickly as possible, so that they can even reinvest in other areas. The National Association for Medium and Small Scale Contractors.
Secondary Schools Teachers Union of Zambia SESTU's Secretary General Wamuyuwa Stevesiko has warned teachers across the country against conducting secret lessons and tuitions to pupils amidst the outbreak of the coronavirus. Mr. Stevesiko tells Q News that his union is aware of some teachers who are contemplating conducting tuitions in their homes during the closure of schools. He has appealed to teachers to adhere to the Statutory Instruments 21 and 22 of 2020 and other measures that have been put in place in the wake of the coronavirus outbreak. Mr. Stevesiko states that both the lives of learners and teachers must be protected in the wake of the coronavirus. Therefore, all stakeholders in the education sector must comply with the measures put in place. He has also called on parents to ensure that their children are safe by keeping them home and not allow them to go for tuitions.
We do not want to put anyone's life in risk or at risk. The life of our learners, the life of our teachers must be protected. And we can only do so by complying. So this closure, I think our appeal to all of us as stakeholders is to ensure that we comply. We must not have a lot of exceptionals. Because the moment we create exceptionals here and there, then we create a room for people to start abusing those exceptionals and start doing the wrong thing. At the moment, we should simply agree that schools have closed and there's no gathering of teachers and pupils. Yes, we can hear that some teachers or some of us are gathering learners at our homes. I think, in my opinion, that should not be discouraged, because gathering the people at home involves movement, and it is this movement which we should be able to discourage, because people are not going to gather at a place where they do not live. First they come to your place and then they get back to their places. So it is not just looking at the number of people who have gathered, but we have to also look at the movements they have made and where they are coming from. They have contact. They are in contact with with the different people, different members of their families. So, in my appeal, looking at the way the cases are rising, the number of cases rising, I think it will be prudent for everyone's sake, for everyone's safety, to comply and abide by the measures that have been put in place by experts through the Ministry of Health. So I appeal to our members, to our teachers, to ourselves, to the parents also, to ensure that we try to keep our children at home.
And Professional Teachers Union of Zambia Pertu's General Secretary Kangwa Msenga has called for a total lockdown of the country in order to contain the coronavirus. Mr. Msenga is worried that the closure of schools might be prolonged, considering that the disease is not showing any signs of slowing down, hence the need for government to consider a total lockdown of the country. In an interview with Q News, Mr. Msenga feels enforcing a total lockdown will prevent the spread of the virus and save lives. He has lamented that the disease outbreak has disturbed the school curriculum and is further concerned with the effect this could have on the 2020 examinations table.
The position of the union certainly is to have a total lockdown so that we determine how we can deal with this situation. I think the earlier we do that, the better we are going to save the learning calendar this year. You must be aware too well that at the moment people are moving freely, our pupils are moving freely, our teachers are moving freely, and the outcome might be so atrocious per se. So we urge government to move in and immediately enforce a total lockdown to save lives even to preserve the strength of the education curriculum, which we have already lost due to some days of closing schools. I think we're in a dilemma. But we urge our members countrywide. We also encourage the school management to stay put so that we resolve this issue together. I think this is a national issue which do not need a lot of politics, but we just need to deal with this amicably so that we get back to the drawing board and we get back to the teaching of the...
Residents of Sabasaba area in Kaunda Square Stage 1 have bemoaned the non-collection of garbage in the area despite their commitment to pay 40 kwacha per month for garbage collection. The residents have told Q News that the last time garbage was effectively collected was sometime in January. They say ever since the garbage in the area is only collected after a month or so. They say the feedback they have gotten from the Mnali Ward 33 councillor is that the company contracted to collect the garbage has no transport. This forced the residents last week to resort to dumping the garbage in the middle of Sabasaba Road as a way of protest. Here's a report.
Heaps of uncollected garbage covering this road called Sabasaba in Lusaka's Kaunda Square Stage 2 area is what greets the eye. According to the residents, the garbage has not been collected for about 2 months, hence the decision by the residents to dump it along the road as a means of sending the message of their displeasure across and as a way of protesting.
kuchokera mu February so bokutenga mabini so wantu manje wakalipa kandi ndiye china ngesa batera mabini pa roads.
Okay, ero maipia zinga
40 kwacha per month,
but explanation makamba tincha
moto kaina unongeka.
The time that I came from work, I just found that there was a lot of garbage. Actually, they've corrected some. It was a lot of them. And then when asked, people said they were not because the people that are being paid to correct this garbage, they haven't been correcting. And like people had a heap of garbage in their homes. And now because of this coronavirus thing, and then you talk of cholera, people are upset. No wonder they had to throw garbage on the roads.
Traki wakapitamo pitamo watenga ndrama manyumba mose mafote kwacha batuza pesa ti once wakapitamo cheka mozi nisema bini ya sala nishinko yiva lako sochana so as results ndiye pamene vantu vanakalipa manje wose kuchoka uku ambo tenga mabini ambo faka
it's like we want a contract motoka ya using a mozi so vachita drag kutenga mabini manyumba ya wanu manje vambononka mimi vambopanga chongo nyumba. Maybe
it is common knowledge that waste and garbage can result in the outbreak of various airborne and waterborne diseases, as lamented by the residents who have called for effective collection of the waste, to which they contribute 40 kwacha towards.
We have to keep hygiene. Manje tikambonkhala mwasoni shi coronavirus zatideka tiswateva. Asizatideka coronavirus tipempa ko chape kuti bapitirize kubodoba mabini ku. Ndata iyi ndiye pazachokera matenda ya corona.
Sylvester Mlenga is Mnali Ward 33 councillor, and he had this to say about the situation.
The garbage collection has only been delayed, not they don't collect. Because if they don't collect, all the 4 years we have been managing that system, we could have had accumulation of heaps and heaps of piles and piles of garbage within the community. So since we don't have any, which led to the closure of all the dumping sites in my ward. People of Kaunda Square knows this. So meaning they do collect, but there's a delay as a result of we don't have enough people to collect garbage or firms to collect garbage. And so the Lusaka City Council recently advertised the code for the tender for garbage collection. And I'm happy that from the time they opened the bids on 27th of March, I was briefed that about 12 waste management companies have applied in my ward, in my Mnali Ward 3, meaning I have about 4 who compete with, I have about 12 firms who compete against the 8 zones which we have. So we're hoping the Lusaka City Council, after the tender evaluation, they will pick the best.
Fortunately, by the time this reporter got to the ground, garbage collectors from the Lusaka City Council were on the ground collecting the garbage, and it is therefore hope that this will be followed through periodically, and these shops that have closed due to the stench excited from these heaps of garbage will reopen and business will resume as usual. Nakaonga reporting for QTV News in Lusaka.
Finally, in our news, Papaya K Foundation founder and executive director Sandra Mukwavi has noted the need for more sensitization on autism in order to reduce on stigma against people with the condition. Ms. Mukwavi has also noted the need for government through the Ministry of Health to decentralize autism diagnostic services. She has expressed concern that people have to come to Lusaka from different provinces just to get a diagnosis at UTH.
Well, the government has set up good policies, but they are not doing enough. They can do much more if they can decentralize services. We cannot have everybody coming in the entire nation from Kasama to come and get a diagnosis at the UTH, at the University Teaching Hospital. We cannot have parents walking miles and miles to go and get a review. If we can place a pediatrician, of course we get a diagnosis, but if we can get a pediatrician to be placed at every hospital, local clinic, if we can have, in Lusaka we have, we talk about Mandela constituency, we have Chipata level 1. We can place, the government can place a pediatrician there, can open up physiotherapy center there so that the parents within that community can then access that service.
To end the news, we recap on stories making headlines. The number of the country's COVID-19 cases has increased to 36. Energy Minister Matthew Nkua says the Copperbelt Energy Corporation has refused to sign a short-term power supply agreement with ZESCO, insisting on a long-term one. And police in Lusaka have arrested Pensions and Insurance Authority PIA Registrar and Chief Executive Officer Christopher Mapani for abuse of authority of office. That item brings us to the end of the news. Thank you for watching.